All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
Hello, Internet world. I am Joe McDonald. That is Aman Patel. You might think, boy, there's usually three of you, and there's a better looking one than the guy who's talking, but he is on the road right now. Our good friend Tony, he's with us in spirit. This is Jawing and Balling on the All Sports, All Plays Network. Aman, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. I got the Brady jersey on because he's back, and I'm glad Jawing and Balling's back this week.
Well, unlike Tom Brady, we are here every week. We are consistent. For the most part, we all show up, Tony. But you know what? The core is here. That's the biggest concern right now. But Aman, the NFL has been crazy this week. There's not even enough time to get into all the news. But luckily, we've picked out a few topics that we'd like to discuss because number one, that's what we care about. And number two, that's what Tony told us to do. And he's the boss, whether he's here or not. So, Tony, I'm paying attention. Let's get right into this, okay? The old San Diego Chargers, now the new LA Chargers, have made a huge, huge splash before free agency started and in free agency. They acquired Khalil Mack from the Chicago Bears for a pretty reasonable price, and now have also signed top free agent corner J.C. Jackson away from the Patriots in a 5-year, $82.5 million deal. Aman, that hurts us as Patriot fans, I understand. But before we get into more details, what are the Chargers doing?
They're loading up. They're going all in. I think they see Justin Herbert as a guy who's going to make Patrick Mahomes type money. And they realize that. And they said, this is our time to kind of go all in. And you talk about this division, it's already loaded. And I know we're going to get into that. But I think they're saying we can match point for point with Kansas City and with Denver. What we need to do is go defensively and try to stop them from scoring a touchdown or 10 points. And I think right now, if you look at it, they have the best defense after these acquisitions amongst the group. I think their defense is far beyond Cincinnati's. And then Denver, I just don't know if they're as proven as what we're seeing out of the Chargers right now. So for the Chargers, it's okay. We're in all-in mode. And also, this division's loaded. If we can stop a team from scoring, we know we can score. We can walk away with this division.
I would like to think Denver until you can beat, again, they were the number 3 scoring defense last year. I think that they're still going to be pretty good. But again, all fairness, that's fine. We don't know what Khalil Mack's going to look like out on the field. We don't know what J.C. Jackson is going to look like. On paper, yes, they're probably the best defense in the AFC West. And you could argue one of the top 2 defenses in the whole AFC. My biggest thing with this is the Chargers are doing what Cleveland tried to do with Baker Mayfield, which is a top 5, top 6 pick on a rookie contract. You have incredible defensive players. You had Joey Bosa. You had Myles Garrett. You have pieces around them on offense. You bring in Odell Beckham Jr. You had Jarvis Landry. Now you have Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. I mean, really, it's not an exact copy, but the Chargers are not waiting around for this. Like, they know, like you said, there is only a finite amount of time that they can be competitive because you never know. We can say, oh, Justin Herbert's going to have a Hall of Fame career. We don't know. We thought the same with RG3. Like, we don't know. We thought Kirk Cousins was destined to be a backup. He's not. I mean, I say it again. We don't know. So the Chargers are absolutely going all in. I want to ask you this. Of the 2 big moves, of these moves on defense, which one do you like more? Is it giving up the 2nd and the 6th for Khalil Mack and taking on that huge cap hit, or is it signing J.C. Jackson in free agency? Which one do you personally like better for the team?
I think I like the Khalil Mack pick only because I think last year their defense took a huge step back after losing Melvin Ingram. I thought that was a real kicker for them, losing that second pass rusher. I think when Joey Bosa, he's a great pass rusher, but when he got 3 guys on him, it's not going to be a very good day for you. I thought, yes, J.C. Jackson is going to be huge in terms of ball hawking back there. But I think Khalil Mack being the extra guy to get to the rusher, freeing up Joey Bosa, just creates a little bit more opportunity for that defense to make some more of those big-time plays.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen other guys benefit from Khalil Mack playing at an elite level. Can he still play at that elite level? Maybe not. Can he be the Robert Mathis to Dwight Freeney Sure, maybe like Bosa is the guy now, which makes sense. He's younger, he's healthy, stuff like that. But if he's that second guy, that's not a bad person to have out there. Again, I'm gonna lean a little bit towards JC Jackson just because you don't get number one corners very often, Kansas City. But let's not forget, Derek Carr and the Raiders were a playoff team last year, and they got a lot of that through the air. Denver has the offensive weapons, and now we see with Russell Wilson coming in, they have it. You have to have a defense. That's the one thing that we've seen from the AFC West is with this retooling, with Wilson coming in with all this, the defenses are trying to get stronger because they know you're not always going to win games 50-49. You have to be able to stop the other team once in a while. Let me ask you this, because we've referenced it lots of times in the AFC West. On paper, right now, in the middle of March, before the draft, before the end of free agency, before everything happens, give me your 1 through 4 power rankings in the AFC West.
Oh my goodness. So this is very tough. I think the top 3 to me are very close, and the 4th team, while I think they're good, I just don't think they're that level. I think I'd put the Chargers number 1 right now. On paper, I think the defense looks that good, and I just don't know Nathaniel Hackett is with Denver, and that's the only thing that's holding me back. I just don't know what kind of system we're going to see in Denver. I'd put Kansas City at 2. I still think you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Travis Kelce, you have that proven group. I know they lose Tre'Davious Ward. I know they lose Tyrann Mathieu. They brought in Justin Reed, but I still think that kind of dynamics playmaking you get at Kansas City is, really something you can't really match. And then I put Denver at 3. And again, it's just for the lack of me knowing what Nathaniel Hackett brings to the table. What can he do offensively? Does he draw things up, or is he just a glorified guy under a guy we don't even know can work without Aaron Rodgers, right? Is he really someone that we trust in? And then for the Raiders, just because I think the talent level doesn't match up across the board. Yes, I like Max Crosby. Yes, I like Derek Carr, but I just don't think if you look from on paper, I just don't see it matching up with those other 3 teams.
No, that's absolutely fair. I mean, the thing that people forget too is we talk about this powerhouse of the AFC West. We also have 2 first-year head coaches. Now, McDaniels is a retread head coach, but it's not like he had a long coaching career. He's mainly been an offensive coordinator in the league. Hackett has been an offensive coordinator in the league, different teams. So for me, pretty much the same. I am going to flip-flop 1 and 2. As Ric Flair always used to say, to be the man, you have to beat the man. And right now, Kansas City is the man. All the additions on paper are fine. All the hoopla and all this, we saw it last year with New England where they went out and spent a bunch of money and everybody's like, oh, they're going to chase down Buffalo. Well, at the end of the season, guess what? Buffalo spanked them once, spanked them twice, spanked them 3 times a lady. All right. So again, you have to do it on the field, and Kansas City has shown that they can do it on the field. Number 2, again, I'm going to go with the Chargers for all the right reasons. I think without these moves, they're the number 2 team in the division. I think that makes a lot of sense. Number 3, I am going to go with Denver. Again, first-year head coach. The other thing that people aren't talking about, or at least I haven't heard, is how does Russell Wilson fit into this? Because is he going to be the power broker that he wants to be? We all know Russell Wilson wants power. He wanted it in Seattle. He didn't get it. He got traded to Denver, which is what he wanted. Now, is he going to butt with Nathaniel Hackett? Is this going to be an Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur situation where it's like Aaron's like, okay, you're the coach, but it's my offense, and we're going to run what I want to run? Does that happen here? Is that a reason that Hackett was okay taking this job? Because they said, listen, we're either going to chase Russell Wilson or we're going to chase Rodgers, and you're going to be basically like a Dallas head coach. You're going to be a de facto coordinator, / leader on the field, but he's in charge. So, again, I'm interested to see. I was high on Denver last year. Loved me some Teddy B. Unfortunately, didn't work out. Then they go get my mortal enemy and Russell Wilson. So, there's only so much I can do. And then number 4, like you said, the Raiders. McDaniels is the first one. The new head coach. Sorry, my brain froze there for a minute. And but again, we don't know what's going to happen with Carr. They say they like him. It's probably a 1-year tryout to see what happens. We know they have to really work that receiver core back because, just the way it happens. And let's face it, a guy like McDaniels, again, we just talked about power. He's going to want the organization to look how he wants it to look. And it's going to take time. We already saw them trade Yannick Ngakoue out, and they bring in the cornerback from, the Colts. His name is escaping me right now.
Rocky Sin.
Yeah, Rocky Sin. Thank you. So, I mean, again, like last year, Ngakoue was a big signing for them, So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, this could be one of those things kind of how the NFC West was last year, where we think all the teams could make the playoffs, and then there's two clearly dominant teams, and then like other teams kind of on the fringe. Like, you know, who's going to be the Seattle this year? Is it the Chargers? Maybe it's, maybe it's the Broncos. We don't know. Yeah, they haven't given Murray an extension. Yeah, we'll talk about that. I brought him up earlier. We need to bring him up again. Boy, oh boy. Things are not going well in Cleveland. LeBron James just left. Oh, wait, that was a few years ago. Yeah, it's been a rough time in Cleveland. If you don't know, and we'll tie this into Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson was criminally cleared of all his charges, is shopping himself around the league, basically looking for the best deal for the Texans and him. One of the teams that came into the fray a little bit late was the Cleveland Browns, which was interesting because they have not given Baker Mayfield an extension. We know that. They spent big in free agency last year helping that defense. They just cut Jarvis Landry. They just brought in Amari Cooper. Before we get to Baker specifically, I don't think the Browns are going to get Deshaun Watson, but what were your thoughts whenever you saw that Cleveland was in fact meeting with him and offered a trade proposal?
I wasn't surprised. Again, I think if you can go get Deshaun Watson on that team, you are a team that is right there in the AFC, because we talk about the defense is there. And yeah, you cut Jarvis Landry, no OBJ, but Amari Cooper can be serviceable. You did cut Austin Hooper, but you franchise tag David Njoku. You still have that two-headed running game behind in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Still a top 2 offensive line in the NFL when healthy. So you still have the pieces there. I'm not surprised you go out there and try to trade, because I think they feel they're a quarterback away. They're a quarterback that can make special plays away. And they don't know if that's Baker. But what they do know, when Deshaun's on the field, he is that guy. And so to me, yeah, if I'm Deshaun Watson, I look at it and say, okay, let me see what you're offering and see what I am left with. If I'm Cleveland, yeah, Deshaun, if you want to come here, I'm going to try to get you, because, again, you can turn this thing around.
No, you're absolutely right. Listen, Baker Mayfield went number 1 overall because he had charisma. I hate to tell you this. If you take a number 1 overall pick in the draft because charisma, you deserve everything that you get. You do. It's like dating somebody based on their profile picture. Like, that's not who they are as a person. You need to actually get to know them. And Baker Mayfield is not the locker room leader that has been built up to be. I mean, it's clear. We saw Duke Johnson. When Duke Johnson 2 years ago requested a trade, Baker Mayfield made a comment about, like, you're either on the train or you're off. And Baker has this John Deere letter that he puts out basically thanking the people of Cleveland and all this other stuff. And Duke Johnson goes and replies to it with a train wreck. And it's like, what happened to the train? You were the conductor. This is your fault. Like, I don't care about the engineers who built the Titanic. I don't care about the first mates who didn't let the people on. The captain is to blame. It's his fault. And Baker, you're the captain. You are the head of the ship. And the Titanic, like the Cleveland Browns, is in danger of sinking. I mean, let's get into Baker for a moment, because we know, I think, I can't say we know because I don't know your opinion on this. What do you think Baker Mayfield's ceiling as an NFL quarterback is? You don't have to give me a perfect comp, but what do you see if everything works out perfect for him? What do you see?
He's a solid starter. Like, he's a guy who you plug in there. He's not going to give you a ton. He'll not give you a ton of great plays. We won't make a ton of bad plays. He'll just be a guy who, if everything around him's working, he's not going to mess it up. And I want to say like a Jimmy Garoppolo type of guy. That's kind of what I think his ceiling is he can just go in there, manage the game, run the gimmicks, and not do too much to mess things up.
I guess. But like, is that
ceiling.
A guy?
That's the ceiling, I think, that he
has. Like, is that a guy you want to invest $200 million in? No. Is that a guy that you want to franchise tag for 2 years in a row? No. Is that it's just, again, at the moment, they needed a quarterback. Quarterbacks go number 1 overall, unfortunately, for the most part. And they took one. They didn't want to take the guy in Josh Allen because they weren't sure what he could become. They didn't want to take the guy in Lamar Jackson because, I don't know, they had him listed at running back, like whatever the reason was. But again, like it's just, this whole letter was really, really off-putting, like to me, because it's come out since that basically they're out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, but they're going to work with Baker to get in the best situation. He's playing on the 5th-year option. Like, this is it. Whoever he goes to, whether it's in Cleveland or somebody else, this is a make it or break it year. He's coming off surgery. If he goes to a new team, you presume it's going to be a new offense with a whole new situation. I mean, like, he is kind of set up for failure, because if he overachieves in Cleveland again, I think people, rightfully so, will say, well, Chubb was healthy. Hunt was healthy. You had a defense. Yeah, like, he's just not going to get the respect that I'm not quite sure he deserves anyway. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, and that's what you're going to chalk it up to, because again, when you watch him play, I think it's kind of similar to a lot of people when they watch Mac Jones play this year. Some people would say, wow, he threw the ball over the place, but you watch it, you said, okay, yeah, the Damian Harris played really well. That defense played really well. They did this really well. They made it easy, and that's what it kind of feels like the Browns have to do. Not only do they do, but have to do. I think that's the difference here. It feels like when everybody is making it easy, that's the only time it works. I think, yeah, as a team, you should make it easy on your quarterback. That should be the goal. But when things get hard, that's when you need him to step up. And to me, we've never seen Baker do it. And until we do, everyone's going to say, even if he has a good year, well, the Browns just made it easy on him. Chubb had a great year. The line was healthy. This was healthy. Until we see that one big-time, crunch-time moment. And unfortunately for Baker, really he's had two opportunities, both against the Chiefs, and we haven't seen him come through.
No, absolutely. Let's get to a few questions here in the comments. John Sugg says, now the Titans have released Julio Jones. That's a nice waste of a pick here. And the Bucs don't have Antonio Brown. Good. Could you see him joining them? Me personally, no. Julio doesn't make sense for them. They already have a big body wide receiver who's younger and healthier, and Mike Evans. Julio, there's going to be plenty of options. Somebody's going to take a look at him, probably give him a decent deal with incentives. I just don't see him going to the Bucs. To me, it doesn't make sense at all. Amon, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they need another predominantly outside receiver. They brought in Russell Gage for that reason, get a guy who can be inside, be a little bit shiftier, and I think that's the kind of guy they lacked last year. They hoped AB to be him, and he just wasn't.
Yeah, Scotty Miller was hurt. I mean, it was the whole situation. But no, I don't see Julio going to a team like the Bucs. It just doesn't make sense to me. Let's move on next. Damian Hernandez. Boy, he's up all time. In the morning asking him on and them questions, up in the evening. Glad you guys are tuning in. Question. Pete Carroll said in a press conference that Colin Kaepernick deserves a second chance in the NFL, but says he doesn't know if it's with the Seahawks. Do y'all think the Seahawks should risk it and go after Cap? Listen, let's take everything aside. All the political stuff. He hasn't played in numerous years. But when it comes to training camp, we have expanded rosters. We hear every year that there aren't enough good quarterbacks to go around. So does it make sense for the Seahawks to sign him? Sure. He needs to be in the passing camps in the spring. He needs to be at the volunteer, mini camps and things like that to get back acclimated with all that. Because, yes, he was practicing with Tyler Lockett the other day. We saw that. Is it with the Seahawks? I mean, Pete Carroll came out today and said that they were really high on Drew Lock coming out of the draft. Yeah, but you didn't take him because you had Russell Wilson. So, it's all fine and dandy. Amon, before I go too long on this, do you think it makes sense for Cap in the NFL in particular, or to the Seahawks, or is there a team that you'd like to see him go to?
Look, I think it's the 5-year gap that's just holding me back on this whole Kaepernick thing. 5 years out of the NFL, especially as a guy who he never was a guy who's just going to sit there in the pocket and deliver. He was going to make plays with his feet, with his body. And 5 years out of the NFL, you can say you're working out and you can look great, but until you take that first hit, until you feel it, you're not going to really know what it's like. I remember Pride and I talked about this with Rob Gronkowski. His first couple weeks back in Tampa, he said he was not feeling it. And this is a 6'6" man's man, and he wasn't feeling it. So Colin Kaepernick, never the biggest quarterback, he's not going to feel it. Now, can the Seahawks be a place? Seahawks don't have a quarterback, so sure, bring him in training camp. If he has anything left, you'll know. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. But to me, the Seahawks would be really one of the only places that could give him an opportunity, just in terms of if he wants to be a starter, that's your place to be at. But it's just the 5-year gap for me that's just hurt Kaepernick. Should he have been in the league before? Probably. But this 5 years now, I can't be a guy who's like, I'll just go and shoot my shot on him.
Well, and the difference is when he left the league, or when he was, whatever you want to say, yes, I'm driving, but can balance sending a message and playing. Listen, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Tony, for popping in there. Listen, here's the thing about it. The last time that he played, he was mediocre at best. He was. Like, let's just say what he was. Now, was that due to injuries? Was it due to his change to a vegan diet, which we've seen some players succeed with and other players not? Maybe. We don't know. But let's just say he was a barely middle of the pack quarterback. I think we're fair in saying that. Is that the guy you want 5 years later to be an automatic starter? No. Do I think Cap deserves a chance? Sure. But is he going to go somewhere and be a starter? Like, do I expect him to go to Detroit and compete with Jared Goff? No, I actually don't. As bad as Jared Goff is, he's been in a system. He's been playing. Like, there are just things that he can do that right now Colin Kaepernick can't do. But to bring him in for a camp body, to bring him in for passing camps, yes, it should have been done a long time ago. And unfortunately, the message gets lost in translation, as it always does, good or bad. It always gets lost in translation. And that's what it's come down to. The NFL didn't want to answer questions, which is the modus operandi of the NFL. And Colin Kaepernick didn't have answers. He just didn't. He didn't. Like, when's the last time you heard him? He doesn't talk. He's behind the scenes. And one thing that we want as fans and that the NFL wants as an entity is for people to open their mouths, apologize, even if they don't have to or should have to, and make everything fine. Look at it. Every situation in the NFL has been taken care of because somebody says something, right? It's always, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. We're past all that. It's in my past. It's all every single time. And Colin Kaepernick just doesn't seem like the type of person who's going to do that. What do you think, Amon?
Yeah, and I don't. Again, should he have to? No. Like, let's just be honest. He stood up for a cause he believed in. And he has every right to do so. And again, he should not have to apologize. And in the NFL, as you said, most of the time, someone's got to come out and apologize. And I know it's not going to be Roger Goodell. He might have said, he might have done something, but he ain't going to go out there and say, you know what, I'm all wrong. I'm going to do this. And Colin Kaepernick, again, should not have to because he stood up for something that he believed in. And that's just the fact of the matter. But again, 5 years later, not John also put down here, 5 years later, Brady's a GOAT, and that's 5 years. Many teams would take that chance. Again, they would bring him into training camp and see him, and I think they should do the same thing with Colin Kaepernick. But again, if Brady sat for 5 years, I don't know if many teams are talking about it. And here's my example. With Deshaun Watson, people are questioning him after just 1 year, right? 1 year. And when he was on the field, he wasn't just mediocre at best. He was arguably a top 3 quarterback in the NFL when he was on the field last time we saw him. And 1 year later, we're sitting here, we don't know what he's going to be. So 5 years, that's just such a long gap.
Different position, different player, different situation. We saw Le'Veon Bell sit a year, and we saw him absolutely fall to pieces when he signed with the Jets. He was never a suitable running back the way that he was in Pittsburgh, the way that he was. Listen, Colin Kaepernick was able to succeed early on in his NFL career because he was one of the most athletic quarterbacks the NFL had ever seen. He had a cannon for an arm, he was stupid fast, and he could get away from defenders. 5 years later, you don't get better at that. You just don't. If you and I stopped podcasting right now for 5 years and then tried to start, our first show would be horrible. I don't care how good we are. There's not. Listen, on TV, if Stephen A. Smith shut his mouth for 5 years, he ain't gonna just turn it back on the first time. I don't care what he says. He can't do it. It's just not the way that it works. He would need a warm up, which is exactly what it is. Let's go back to our buddy John. Okay, Amon, this is a topic for you and I because we talked about this beforehand. Explain why Minnesota gave all that money to Kirk Cousins. Oh boy. Listen, this is a pet peeve of mine. This is, if you've never listened to my show, which I'm sure you haven't, I've been all in on this Cousins thing. It's been insane. Kirk Cousins signed a 1-year extension through the 2023 season for $35 million. And you're like, wow, that's a lot of money. It is a lot of money, especially when it's fully guaranteed. What, you might say? Fully guaranteed? What kind of idiot gives Kirk Cousins fully guaranteed money? Well, Amon, as you and I spoke beforehand, a lot of people, because that will be the 8th straight year in which Kirk Cousins received a fully guaranteed contract. Yes, his last 2 years with the Washington football team, the Washington Commanders, the Washington used to be racial slurs, the last 2 years, and then 6 years with Minnesota. Amon, I gave you a little bit of info before this. Right now, Kirk Cousins has made the 6th most amount of career earnings of any active player. I give you the floor.
First things first, good on Kirk Cousins and his agent. And can I get a call with that agent? Because my God, 8 years? You sold Kirk Cousins for guaranteed money for 8 years? That's ridiculous. I don't care who you are. That's an impressive statement. All right. Again, it's not like you sold Aaron Rodgers, right? You sold Kirk Cousins for guaranteed money for 8 years. That's just unbelievable stuff. I think why the Vikings gave him all that money, because they're so afraid of being bad. They would rather be old, expensive, and mediocre. And that's just the situation they're in. They're not going to go get Deshaun Watson because Deshaun said no. They couldn't land Rodgers because he's with the Packers. They couldn't get Russell Wilson because they're in the NFC. So they couldn't get any of the quarterbacks they wanted. They don't want to go and get Jimmy Garoppolo. They don't want to go and get any of these other guys. They didn't try to trade for Carson Wentz, which is beyond me. But they said, you know what? We can go get old, expensive, and mediocre. And that's just the state of the Minnesota Vikings right now.
I love that they tried to trade for Wentz. That's like trying to trade for Devonte Culpepper after the injuries. Like, no. You had him when he was healthy. You don't trade for him after the injuries. It's horrible. It's just terrible. I don't even know if you're old enough to remember Devonte Culpepper, but
I remember Devonte Culpepper.
Okay, after the injuries, he was not good. So, yeah, I mean, John says it here. In 4 seasons with Cousins, the Vikings have made the playoffs once. He has a 33-29-1 record as a Minnesota starter. Cool. Is that $35 million guaranteed worth? I don't know. But, like, the NFL, no league has guaranteed contracts. It's what the agents get for the players. Okay? They could have gotten Brissett. Hey, listen, I'm a Jacoby Brissett truther, so you're barking up the right tree here, Davian. All right? I'm a Brissetter. So, again, yes, 33-29-1. But if I'm investing that type of money, guess what? I want better results. And guess who they've had around him? Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson. They haven't had scrubs around them. Like, those guys have been top of the league elite receivers in catches, in yards, and touchdowns. Like, it's again, they've put stuff around him. I thought Mike Zimmer was a good head coach. Him and Cousins clearly didn't get along. Zimmer lost the power struggle. It happens. Usually quarterbacks are the ones who win those. But, yeah, I mean, Amon, you said it perfectly. They don't want to be mediocre. They've been mediocre. Like, there's a reason they took on, like, 40-year-old Brett Favre, even though, like, he had a great season, but, like, he was falling apart because of the hope. And, one of my favorite movies, Shawshank Redemption, hope can be a dangerous thing, especially for NFL franchises who don't want to just be middle of the pack. And Minnesota, even paying him at 33-29-1, is middle of the pack. Like, they just are. So, again, if you're not doing it right, you have to do something different. Amon, you're a smart kid. What's the definition of insanity?
Doing something over and over again and expecting a different result.
Exactly. Congratulations, Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins. You are the definition of insanity because they keep running it back. Can he put up great stats? Yes, you could argue Kirk Cousins was a top 10 quarterback in the league last year. They didn't make the playoffs. Yes, they had other issues, but, like, you lost to a Dallas Cowboys team at home with a backup quarterback because Kirk Cousins couldn't complete the ball. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right on that. Because, again, you're so afraid that you'd rather just stay this way. You're so afraid of even taking a step back that step back could lead you 2 steps forward. You don't know. But you're so afraid to take the step back that you're just willing to be this. And this is not great.
It's not. No, what you said right there is a perfect personification of all this. It's not great. It can be good. It's not great. If I'm investing that money, I want great. I don't want good.
Yes.
It's plain and simple. If he had taken to the playoffs every year and lost, like if he was a Marvin Lewis all-star, that's fine. Because at least you can say, well, it's just bad luck. The NFC's tough, whatever. One time they made the playoffs. 33-29-1. Not great. That's great if you're a basketball player. 33-29-1 is a great stat line. Not when you're an NFL starting quarterback for a team. It's just not. I know you love basketball, so all right. We do have some topics, but we'll get to one more here before we dip back into ours. John Suggs. Boy, John, you are active tonight. That's fine and dandy. Were the Falcons stupid for giving Matt Ryan an extension? They missed the playoffs again. Listen, this comes down to one thing and one thing only. It's not Matt Ryan's fault. It's not Julio Jones' fault. It's not Shanahan's fault. It's not anybody's fault except one person. Arthur Blank. We saw you dancing at the Super Bowl. We saw what you did up 28-3 against the New England Patriots. This curse is on you. This is your fault. It all lays at your feet. Okay, I'm kind of joking, but
Only kind
but
of.
just a little bit. No, but in all seriousness, I mean, Ryan, again, I would put him a tier above Kirk Cousins, but not much more than that. Like, let's take his best season, his MVP season, take it off the top. Take his worst season, take it off the bottom. What is he? He's an okay quarterback. I mean, he puts up stats in a passing league. Like, what do you want me to tell you? Amon, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's just the same thing here. Is they have no other option, and that's the crazy part. Is they have no other option, and he's never been great. Like he's been good, and everyone's gonna throw the stats at me. It's like stats. Everyone says stats don't lie. Stats do lie. That's the number one thing. Like you might say numbers don't lie, but numbers without context are the biggest thing that that will lie to you. That's the number one thing. So that's just what Matt Ryan is. He's a stat quarterback, and that's great when you have Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu and Austin Hooper and Devonte Freeman and Tevin Coleman and Kyle Shanahan. That's great. But without him, it's not great. And again, the Falcons right now have no other option. I think they just don't want to be bad. Just say kind of similar situation. They don't want to lose their one thing that's going to sell tickets. I think for the Falcons, you lose Julio, you lose all your talent. Matt Ryan's the only reason that people are going to get into seats this year. They're going to pile into that new stadium of theirs because Matt Ryan's there. So that's to me, that's the only reason you make him this offer.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Ryan's a Hall of Fame nice guy. He's just not a Hall of Fame player. I mean, that's just what it is. Like, he's a super nice guy. Everybody who's met him talks about how wonderful he is, how nice he is, how respectful he is, and that's fine. But there's a reason that they're also sniffing around Deshaun Watson because they know that they cannot continue to go down this. They did it last year. You know, they're moving money around because of the cap issues. You know, they're already over the cap. Actually, as of 4 o'clock today, no team is over the salary cap because it is the start of the new league year. So every team from this point forward has to be under the salary cap. So definitely pay attention when it comes to free agency signing and trades because now you cannot be over the cap until next February or January. Yeah, February, next February. So with that aside, I mean, again, you never know what's going to happen. We've seen quarterbacks play, but this is something I've talked about on my podcast. Like we see Brett Favre play till he's 40. We see Brady now play till he's 45. 36, 37, like Ben Roethlisberger retired at what, 38, 39? He's my age. Yeah. Like that's a long career. That's exponentially long. These guys fall apart. Like for every Tom Brady, there's an RG3. For every, Brett Favre, there's a Jamarcus Russell. There's a Johnny Manziel. There's these guys who were in the league 2-3 years and done. Like it's a hard position to play, and you want the benefit as long as you can. And they thought that they were going to have that with Matt Ryan. They thought they had a solid team, and Arthur Blank screwed it up for all of them. Sorry, Atlanta, but it's not my fault. It's not my Patriots' fault. It's not Amon's Patriots' fault. It's Arthur Blank's fault. Do you agree?
Yeah. Again, he's cutting the checks, and I think they overpaid a lot of players, especially when they came out. I think kind of they fell into the Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco thing. Like, I think Matt Ryan's better than Joe Flacco was, but as soon as they paid Joe Flacco, they were never good, the Ravens, until they got Lamar Jackson. I think similar situation with the Falcons here. As soon as they gave him that huge extension after he won MVP, yeah, you couldn't afford to bring Sanu, continue him. You couldn't afford to pay Taylor Gabriel. You couldn't afford to pay Coleman and Devonte Freeman. And yeah, Kyle Shanahan leaving, that's a big loss. But if you're paying the quarterback that much money, yeah, you lose an offensive coordinator. You don't lose making the playoffs. You lose making the Super Bowl. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I mean, again, you come down a tier, you're competitive in your division, you try and win, and since then they just haven't been, plain and simple. Let's get back to some of our topics. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and contributing. This is awesome. One of the big signings talked about in free agency, moving teams, was Hassan Reddick, the pass rusher, going to Philadelphia, signing, what was it, Amon, that you told me?
It was a 3-year, $45 million contract with 30 of it guaranteed.
Okay, good money for a pass rusher. The NFC East, something they've really prided themselves on the last few years is getting these good pass rushers. We've seen Washington, DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, Dallas, Micah Parsons, stuff like this. We've seen these teams, need these pass rushers because again, it's a league of passing, so you need those guys. The question is, with this signing and some of the other things they've got 3 draft picks coming up in the draft. They were a playoff team, let's not forget, last year. I mean, it was goofy, but they were a playoff team. Could you see Philadelphia taking a big leap up this year?
I don't think this year is the year of their big leap. And I still just don't know the quarterback position there. I know Jalen Hurts, he played decently well and he was fine, but he was very inconsistent. I mean, I saw him in the playoff game. I saw him games before that. He would miss throws in every single drive that would cost them the extension of that drive. And I know he's only getting used to it and he's only getting more and more comfortable. I get that. But this year, I'm not sure that leap's happening. I don't think there's anybody in this draft, even with their 3 first-round picks, that change this roster straight away. Yes, they can go and get some guys who can start right now. And I think in 2 to 3 years, maybe they can make some type of jump. But this year, again, a big leap from being a wild card team would be to winning the division, would be to getting to the conference championship game. And to me, that leap isn't happening. Could they end up being a wild card team and right back in the same situation? Sure. But do I see them getting anywhere past that? No, I don't.
Yeah, this to me is a little bit of Vegas light situation where Vegas a few years ago had 3 first-round picks. 2 of those guys are no longer on the team. One is currently sitting in jail. So hopefully it goes better for Philly this time. But they had a quarterback that they weren't sure if they were sold on. Obviously, Derek Carr was a little bit more accomplished than Jalen Hurts at this point. But same situation. You were trying to fill in gaps on your team. You're trying to stay competitive, keep up with teams in your division that were clearly better. Kansas City, case in point, as we've talked about. With Philly, like you said, is there any quarterback that's going to change their life this year with their 3 picks? Probably not. Is there somebody that, unless they trade up, is there this elite? No. But can they get a wide receiver they desperately need? Yeah. Can they get some offensive linemen that they need? They brought back Kelsey on a 1-year deal, but he's going to be done after this year, presumably. So can you get an offensive lineman to get into the system? Yeah, you can. Can you get a linebacker or something to help you, something like that? Yeah, you can. I mean, this is what team building is about. They're not always going to be home runs, but teams win ball games by hitting doubles. That's a baseball reference. That's a sport that's played, Amon. I know it's not cricket, but it's not popular among the youth. But of my ilk, it's very, very popular, or at least used to be. But again, you win a game by hitting doubles. And Philly right now, they didn't have to trade 3 first-rounders for Watson. They didn't have to go all in. I mean, they may have tried on Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers or any of these guys, maybe Kyler Murray. But they're not choosing to do that. They're taking the patient approach. And like you said, if Hurts isn't the guy, at least you have a team around. Part of the reason we've seen guys come in like Herbert and all this is because the teams around them were pretty good. The reason Mac Jones made the playoffs last year is because the Patriots had a good roster. Philadelphia is trying to do that. So whether it's with Jalen Hurts or with another quarterback a year from now or 2 years from now, they can look around and have a roster and say, you know what? We don't care if we got to go get one in free agency or take somebody in the draft. We have a team that we think can compete now, and now we're a quarterback away.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, the team building aspect is what's really key. And that's what they can do. Again, does a major leap happen? No. But do you get a chance to build for, say Jalen Hurts isn't my guy, but now say, Bryce Young is, and we have an opportunity to go get him. Could you go do that? Yes. Or if, one of these quarterbacks comes out the AFC and says, you know what, I no longer want to be with my franchise, and you have an opportunity to get him. Yes, you can go find those types of guys, and you'll have a team around him versus where if you're Atlanta, what do you have around to go and you go get a quarterback? You still have to build things around. You have to push things over. With Philly, they're cheap, they're young, and they're getting better. And that's all you can ask for out of a team who still doesn't have everything figured out.
Absolutely. I mean, a guy, again, that we've talked about earlier and that we've referenced is, excuse me, if Derek Carr doesn't work out with Vegas, could Philadelphia come next year and offer something for him? Sure. Why not? If Hurts isn't the guy and things of that sort. So, there's that. All right. Tony's not here, but we have to talk about it. I'm sorry, Tony. I know you're watching at home. You're driving. All of a sudden, you're getting ready to veer off the road. I apologize to Tony's loved ones for doing this to him. But Devonte Adams came out and said something interesting, I think. I think it's interesting. He will not play in 2022. Stop. I'm not done yet. Under the franchise tag. He says he wants a big money deal. He's deserving of it. It's about respect. It's always funny about respect. When I look up respect in the dictionary, I do not see dollar signs next to it. That's so weird, Amon. Maybe I have a different dictionary. Are there newer ones that I should check out? I'm a Merriam-Webster guy. That's just what I am.
That's what I use, so I couldn't tell you anything different.
Okay. No money signs. Okay, all about respect. But what did you take from these comments? What did you think of this? What's going on?
I think this is a monster the Packers own creating. I think they missed an opportunity last year to go pay Devonte Adams, and they would have gotten away with paying him, what, $18, $19 million. Well, the Jaguars screwed up all their plans because they said, yo, Christian Kirk, I know you're the third best receiver in Arizona, but we'll make you the third highest paid receiver in the league at $21 million. So Devonte Adams said, oh, he's getting 21. Him? I need at least 21 now. He is that kind of, and I think we can all sit here and say, if he's getting 21, Christian Kirk is, yeah, Devonte Adams deserves at least 21 million. If that's what we're setting the market at, that's where it is. Yeah, I mean, you again, no one wants to pay a receiver $20 million. I don't think any of us would say, yeah, we should pay receivers $30 million, but probably.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Tony.
Yes, Adams does deserve it. All of the Packers deserve all the max contracts. Hashtag destroy the pack cap from Tony.
The troll continues.
This right here is the least surprising Chiron I've ever seen in my life on any news network. It's that right there. Yeah, he had to sign it, Tony, like we didn't know, right? Listen, it's interesting because usually these things go on behind closed doors. We usually see that it's an issue. You know, they keep it quiet. Devontae's been very open that he did not want tagged. He wanted a deal before free agency. Now, remember, teams who have there's been 10 tagged players. Some of those guys have already agreed to contracts, but you have until, I believe it's July 15th, to work out a deal. He does not have to show up for any offseason camps because he's not under contract. He does not have to show up until that day, that deadline. Here's my question, Amon, because we haven't gotten into it, but Aaron Rodgers signed his extension, 3 years, $150 million, whole boatload of money guaranteed. His cap number actually went down because of all this, cap chicanery, which is what happens across the league now. But do you think part of Rodgers signing this deal was a guarantee from the Packers that, yes, they will in fact sign Devonte Adams long-term? Because we have seen that Aaron Rodgers has the Green Bay Packers by the cojones.
Yeah, they do. He does. And to me, if they would have said, I don't think it was. And the reason is, I think if they would have said to Rodgers, hey, we'll get Devonte, just let him, I think they would have said, let us sign him first and then we'll sign you. That's what I think would have happened. And when it didn't happen and then they tagged him right away, I think they more said, look, Aaron, we'll get you him for this year, but we can't promise anything after that. That if you're going to tag him, I just don't know. I just don't see it. Because again, to me, if you were going to go and say, look, Aaron, we're going to give you your money, but we have to figure out Devonte Adams. You're still going to be here, or you're still under contract. If you don't get an extension, you might retire or request a trade. But if we don't give him anything, he is gone. He is leaving somewhere and making $20 million. So we have to find a way to get him his money first, and then we can come to you. To me, that had to have been, if they were saying we'll bring Devonte along for the ride, that would have been the conversation. And when that wasn't, to me, it felt like they said, look, Aaron, we're going to give you him for a year, and then we'll go from there. We'll hope next year everything works out.
This might sound like a crazy question, but I want to ask you this, and I'm glad Tony's not here right now because he's definitely going to post a sarcastic remark, which is fine, and we welcome that remark. For the 2022 season, which to you, or who to you, is the more important player for the success of the Green Bay Packers? Is it Devonte Adams? Or is it Aaron Rodgers? I know that's crazy talking about the 2-time in a row back-to-back MVP. But for the success of the team in 2022, which do you think is more important? The quarterback Aaron Rodgers or the wide receiver Devonte Adams?
I think it's the quarterback Aaron Rodgers. And I think that goes with most situations. The quarterback is the most important player in the field. They do just so much. And that's just the case of the matter, right? I think you talk about MVPs. Should they always be quarterbacks? No, but there's a reason quarterbacks kind of jump to the highest of the list because people hold them in such regard. And I think they do deserve some of that regard because without them, you can have all the talent in the world. And we see it with Cleveland. We see it with Indy. We see it with a lot of these teams. You have all this talent, but without the quarterback, nothing's going to work.
I would love to agree with you. And I think for the most part, I do agree with you. But I'm going to pull a counterpoint here because I'm going to channel my inner Tony. Aaron Rodgers can't lead a team. He just can't. He's not the guy. So Devonte Adams has to be that guy. We saw what happens when he gets locked down in the playoffs when Aaron force feeds him the ball. To me, that's a situation where Devonte needs to go to him and say, listen, they're covering me. go to somebody else. Like, you have to be a team leader. So I actually think it's more important that Devonte Adams not just collect a paycheck and not just be lucky enough to catch all those deep passes from Aaron Rodgers, but to actually be a team leader and stand up and be kind of the counterpoint to Aaron Rodgers. Unfortunately, it is Rodgers. We've seen him win without Adams, not when it matters. So proud of you, Joe. Thank you. It's nice. It's it's a little tap on the shoulder. Good job. Good job. But no, I do. I think part of what these quarterbacks need, especially these guys who have maybe a little bit of an ego, which is most of them, is that counterpoint, whether it's a head coach, which we know it's not in Green Bay. Like, listen, Brady was able to be that guy because he had Bill Belichick to tell him he sucked. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have anybody in that organization that looks at him and says, Aaron, stop doing dumb things. Stop forcing the ball 15 times to Devonte Adams and then getting mad when the one ball that you throw to another guy isn't caught. Like, you need to work them into the game. So I tend to agree with you, but I wanted to make a point for Devonte Adams, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. And I kind of looked at it also like this. If you take Devonte Adams off the field, okay, you can find another receiver. He's not going to be Devonte Adams, but you can find someone serviceable. You take Aaron Rodgers off the field, it's going to be Jordan Love. No, I'm not saying Jordan Love's a bust, but I have no idea what Jordan Love is. I have no idea, and I don't think he's going to have anywhere near the success Aaron Rodgers would have without Devonte Adams.
Jordan Love is as much of a bust that he deserves to be in Cooperstown, New York. That's how big of a bust he is, okay? If you don't know, that's the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's a 2-time baseball topic. Tony's not here. I'm controlling things. 2 times baseball. All right, let's go back to the comments here. Our buddy John Suggs, do you think Tyrod Taylor will take over QB1 over Daniel Jones? Maybe not week 1, but eventually. I'm going to give this one to you first. Just out of respect for Tyrod, I need a moment to think about this.
I think he will. I think Daniel Jones will turn it over just enough times, and you'll see Tyrod Taylor inserted. Look, I think we forget how quickly we forgot Tyrod Taylor took the Buffalo Bills to their first playoff berth since 1999. That's before I was even born. So he did that, and he's played well everywhere he's been. Yeah, he's only been there for 1 year, and they found the guy in every situation apparently. But yeah, I think at some point Daniel Jones is going to see the bench because he just can't stop turning it over.
As much as I love, and listen, I'm a Tyrod guy. Love Tyrod. He's great, or Tyrod, however you. Tyrod. I'm just gonna use enunciation. It's Tyrod. He's not. He's gonna have. It's New Jersey. They play in New Jersey. Like, he's gonna step on like a needle at a beach. On like beach day. He's gonna have a dumpster dropped on his foot. Like, something bad and unfortunate is gonna happen to him because like. That's what happens. I mean, let's not forget how Justin Herbert got into this league. Like, Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback. He got his lung punctured by a doctor giving him an injection for pain for his ribs, and they collapsed his lung, and Justin Herbert was thrown in there. I mean, it's literally Wally Pipp and Lou Gehrig. Like, it's so unfortunate. And I'm sure there's a lot of baseball historians. This is my 3rd baseball one, by the way, that will say that Wally Pipp was a really good player. Guess what? So is Tyrod Taylor. And it's unfortunate that he's literally going to be lost in history as the guy who like literally got his career ended by a stab. Like, there's him and OJ. That's a bad joke. But no, in all seriousness, like, can he take over for Daniel Jones after week 1? I mean, maybe there's a chance. They also signed another quarterback. They signed, trying to remember who they signed. There was rumors that Trubisky was going to go there before he signed with Pittsburgh. I know that. I thought they signed someone else, but maybe I'm just thinking of Trubisky. But again, if Tyrod Taylor is your starter,
Jake Fromm. They signed Jake Fromm, I think. They signed him.
Okay, so they still need to sign another quarterback. So no, it's Sam Ehlinger. I think no, Sam Ehlinger is in Indianapolis. He's in Indianapolis, I believe. Yeah, so John says 1999. Dang, you're still wet behind the ears. Yes. Amon is very young. We have to ask his parents for allow him to record this late. That's why we have to end it at 9 o'clock. So he's got to get home to bed and curfew. No, I mean, listen, again, Tyrod's a very fine player, but the Giants are not a team that are going anywhere right now. They've invested the money we saw last year in Kenny Golladay. They, Evan Ingram's gone. He's down in Jacksonville now, presumably with half the league, signing down there. But what is this team going into the future with a new head coach? Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't like, it was one of those moves. I'm just like, I get it, but it doesn't excite me. Like, yeah, like you said, Daniel Jones is probably going to turn the ball over at a historic rate. He's probably going to get hurt, and we'll probably see Tyrod, and it won't matter at all. You sound like you look like you wanted to say something there. Well,
No. I said it won't matter. It's not going to matter because again, the Giants team isn't going anywhere. The only thing they're going for, I think, Tyrod is Brian Dable's coming from a situation where he had Josh Allen, who's athletic, who likes to make plays with his legs. Tyrod, obviously, we know can make those plays with his legs. Daniel Jones is supposed to be athletic, but he's kind of like Peyton Manning athletic, where you don't want to see him use his athleticism. So, I think Tyrod Taylor could be used in that capacity before he starts, and I think eventually that'll trickle over to him being the starter.
Okay, one more listener question here, and then I got a question for you. Mariota on the move. It's been brought up a few times about Marcus Mariota. Rumor is the Colts, but why would they let go of Wentz if that's the case? You let go of Carson Wentz because he's Carson effing Wentz. That's why you let go of him, and you got assets for him. That's why you let go of him. The two moves are not related in any way, shape, or form. They are as related as Amon and I are, which is not at all. Okay, we're both human beings. That's where it stops. So, again, why would they bring Mariota in? It's the mystery of the unknown, because when we've seen Mariota in spot duty, we've seen him be really efficient, athletic, makes plays. Can he do that full time? Like, to me, Mariota kind of reminds me of like one of those 6 men in the NBA where if you insert him into the starting lineup, he's just not as good. He's just better coming off the bench. Amon, maybe you have a better idea on this. What do you think?
Yeah, the only thing I really saw when I heard about it was, they can run some zone read option with Jonathan Taylor and Marcus Mariota, which would be interesting, right? Because, again, Mariota can move. You have to respect that. But, again, can you do that full time? He's not Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson gets hurt. Kyler gets hurt when they try to do a lot of these things. So I don't think it's a winning formula. And to me, if you could have gone Mitch or Trubisky and then say, okay, Mitch, you're going to be our starter, but we can run some of these things with Mariota in the back end, kind of do what Vegas wanted to do with Carr and Mariota. Sure, but I just don't see Marcus Mariota as a true number one quarterback as a full-time starter anywhere.
Yeah, I don't either. I not to say that he can't be good, serviceable. I mean, to me, Mariota is a step above Tyrod Taylor. He's a guy who can come in for maybe 3 or 4 games, win you a couple, look good doing it, and you're like, oh, this guy, if we play him all the time, and it's like, if you play him all the time, you're going to have problems, which is what happened in Tennessee, and why they moved off of him and stuff. It's just, again, right now, Indy doesn't know what to do. They don't, because the assumption is that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go there and they're going to hand over the keys to Trey Lance. Is that the best move? I don't know. I mean, Jimmy's an adult in the room. Speaking of which, going back to one of our first topics, rumors out of Cleveland are that they want, quote, an adult in the room, which is a massive shot at Baker Mayfield. Massive. Yikes! What does that do to his trade value? Like, if you're calling people like, that's bad, right?
Yeah, you're making Colin Cowherd's takes look really good, and you say they want a grown up in the room. I swear he said that exact same thing. The Browns need a grown up, and Baker is not I swear he said that quote verbatim.
He probably has, and there's rumors that Jimmy Garoppolo would then go to Cleveland, which is just, could you imagine if Cleveland and Indy got in a bidding war for Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, really, the Trent Richardson trade was just a precursor to this. Trent Richardson for a first rounder. Like, this is just like just like this. Those were the appetizers. This is the real meal right here.
The real meal. Oh my goodness.
All right, Amon, we're gonna finish with this free agency. There's way too much to go over, so we're not even gonna try and go over it. But I want you to give me your 2 best deals, favorite deals, not best, favorite deals, and one that you absolutely don't understand. It could be for whatever reason. It could be the fit, it could be the money, whatever. We don't have to go into the contract details. What are 2 that when you saw, you're just like, yes, those make sense?
Alex Kappa to the Cincinnati Bengals. Thank you, Cincinnati, for not trying to be flashy. They could have gone the route, we're going to go and get No, they said, what we're going to do, we're going to protect our franchise guy who just got sacked 50 times in the season and hit a dozen more. That's what we're going to do. And I'm so happy that they did that for Joe Burrow. I also like Ted Karras, but that's not my number 2 favorite move that was made this past in the free agency, because there's been a lot, and a lot of them honestly have started to slip my mind. There's just too many to keep up with. I think the other move that I really did enjoy was just the Chargers going and getting J.C. Jackson. I thought that was phenomenal. After they went and got Khalil Mack, I thought getting J.C. Jackson was just that kind of cherry on top. You now get a guy who can go ball hawk back there alongside Derwin James, take pressure off of Asante Samuel, who, I think can be solid, but just needs a little bit more time. And him being thrusted into a number one corner spot was just not going to work and is not going to work for a little bit of time. So JC takes that pressure off. I think he can be a little bit more assertive in his play style, a little bit more aggressive. And having Derwin is also going to be huge. The one I didn't like was Christian Kirk going for 21 million. I thought Christian Kirk was going to get picked up somewhere, but I didn't like that for Jacksonville to go pay him. I know Trevor Lawrence, he needs weapons, and God Lord, they got him a weapon, and he's solid, he's good, but he's not $21 million worth of good. And this is why bad franchises stay bad for a while, because they overpay guys. And I know you have all the money in the world to spend. Save some of it. Please save some of it. I saw the Zay Jones signing and loved the Zay Jones signing. I thought 30 million over 3 years. Great. He's a BCT receiver, and you give him that type of money. You gave a guy who's a B receiver A++ type of money, and that's just not going to fly. Again, you got him a weapon, but that move I just didn't like.
Yeah, I'm going to go one big money signing, one under. Actually, a player that you talked about that you liked the signing, but wasn't number two. Ted Karras going to Cincinnati. Ted Karras is a guy, he was a glue guy in New England. He went to Miami for 1 year and came back. Listen, he can play center. He can play guard. He's all along the line. Cincinnati needs offensive line bodies. And we've seen that even when they do have an offensive line, they get injured. Karras is a guy who can fill in presumably at all 5 spots if needed, but especially on the interior 3, which is where we saw Cincinnati really get some pressure, is in those middle 3 spots. So I love that signing for Cincinnati. It's not as sexy as the Kappa one, but I just think his positional versatility is huge. Another one I really liked was Brandon Sheriff going from Washington down to Jacksonville, because guess what? They also need help protecting their quarterback, their young quarterback. So that one, you're getting a guy. Has he been beaten up? Yes. He's still very good. He's been an all-pro. He's been a Pro Bowler. He's a veteran in the room. He's a guy that's going to help probably a young line outside of Cam Robinson really grow, and they need that. So, yeah, did they overpay him a little bit? Sure, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. That's what you have to do in free agency, is overpay, like Christian Kirk that we talked about. One move that I didn't like, okay, I'm going to kind of cheat here. I didn't like the Randy Gregory contract. 5 years, $70 million. I thought it was a little bit of an overpay. Some of his issues in the past. We'll see what happens in Denver. But I will put a caveat on it. Glorious sticking it to the Cowboys. Glorious sticking it. Just absolutely. Listen, if you don't know, I'll do this real quick, okay? So Randy Gregory decides to stay with Dallas, 5 years, $70 million. All the money, everything like that, okay? After they agree to terms, Dallas puts contract in the language that says, if you get fined, we can withhold bonus money due to you, guaranteed money. There is only one player on the Cowboys that doesn't have that language in his contract. That's Dak Prescott. Randy Gregory said, nope, not doing it with me. I'm going to Denver for the same exact contract, because they tried to change the language afterwards. Dallas was like, nope, this is what we do in Dallas. And Randy Gregory said, not to me, it's not, and hightailed it to Denver. So, I mean, I think it's an overpay, but God, how glorious is that? Just so good sticking it to the Cowboys. Tony, I'm sorry. I know you're so angry right now, but you know what? We got 2 minutes left in the show. I don't care. On that note, Amon, I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. Another edition of Jawing and Balling Wednesday night on the All Sports All Plays Network. I'm Joe McDonald. That's Amon Patel. Go check out Amon this week, especially on the morning show with our buddy Pride and a cast of characters always in there. Maybe if the Lakers get a win this century, then Freddie will come back on the morning show. We'll see. Also, check out Amon Fridays live, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the stat guy, Dustin Reese, doing a weekly recap. I'm sure he'll rehash some of the takes, the glorious takes that we had tonight, and talk about that and cover all different kinds of sports. And go check out his podcast, the Amon Patel podcast, because guess what? It's amazing. And if you've ever wanted to know anything about cricket, that is your man right there, covering international pro cricket right there. 18 years old doing it. Awesome job. You can find me, obviously, every Wednesday here with Amon and with Tony. And you can also find me on the Out of Bounds podcast, Out of Bounds with a Z, anywhere you find your podcast. Again, like, subscribe, share, all sports, all plays. If you like a sport, we have it here. We got Arena League coming up this next year. We've got all kinds of stuff. Check us out on Tiki Live. Check us out wherever you find podcasts, wherever you find shows, YouTube, Twitch. What other things on there? I'm old. I don't know.
Facebook, Twitter,
everything. It's all out there. So from me, from Amon, from Tony, rest in peace, brother. Just kidding. You guys have a great night, and we will see you next Wednesday on Jawing and Balling.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.